Hi, I'm Debbie Wallace. Thank you for joining me in the Freedom class today. I'd like to share with you a little bit about what we actually do in here so that you can make a decision if you'd like to join us. We are in the pursuit of emotional freedom. People that come to the Freedom class usually have some emotional bondage or what we might call baggage. You got some baggage, issues from the past. Most of it starts in childhood, even if we're not necessarily conscious of that. And this can show up, emotional bondage does show up in different ways. It shows up in the classic dysfunctions of life, such as addiction, promiscuity, but it can also show up personality disorders or dysfunction of any kind. It can also manifest as just a poor sense of self-worth, like low self-esteem. That's something that I dealt with personally. But Jesus set me free from the bondage of shame and hopelessness some years ago. And I'm going to share with you how he did that. It's very simple. It's called putting on the full armor of God, as outlined by the Apostle Paul in Ephesians chapter 6. And I realize that you may have heard some teaching on the full armor before, but I can promise you, you're never going to hear it taught exactly like I'm going to teach it. So you might want to just put on your seatbelt and hold on, because it's fast and furious, it's powerful, and it's effective. You know, most of the time when we have these issues in our life, we go to God in prayer, right? We're supposed to. That's what we're supposed to do. As Christians, that's the only thing we know to do. And quite frankly, it's what the Lord wants. But sometimes it seems like God isn't answering our prayers. Doesn't it? How many times have you prayed about this? How many times have you prayed about these issues in your life? And it's like ghosts of the past that keep coming back to haunt you all the time. Maybe you have been down front in your church, especially if you go to an evangelical church. Maybe you've had people lay hands on you and pray with you about it. One girl said to me, "It just followed me back to my seat." And we wonder why it isn't working. And when it doesn't work, like we hope that it will, we tend to think there's something wrong with me. You know, maybe I don't have enough faith. You see other people getting things from God, and it's like, well, why can't I get it? Or maybe my heart's not right, but you just know that for some reason you're missing it. And then there comes this thought, well, maybe God just has something against me. Have you ever thought that? Maybe God loves other people more than he loves me. That's what I thought. I actually thought that. But see, that's not God's way of doing things. That is not God's way of doing things. So I want you to know right now that if that is you, this is the stuff that the devil plays on everybody to get them to thinking that God has something about them, against them, or that they're different, or that they don't have enough faith. I can almost promise you, you have plenty of faith. It's not about you, and it's not your fault. It's just that when it comes to emotional bondage, God generally doesn't set people free instantly. Now, he does do things for people instantly, and I believe in the power of God. But the problem is not with the power of God. The problem is with us, because we're not usually conditioned to get our freedom instantly. And of course, as Americans, we like instant, don't we? That's the best way for us. Just bang, put it on me, let's go. But God requires us to be a participant in our own emotional health. He requires that. And it's a process. And once you find out that God has a way of doing things, it's called God's way, you'll realize that our way doesn't generally work. And that's why you've been dealing with this, and you've been praying about it, and you've been thinking, well, maybe God just isn't going to let me have it. It's not about you. I can tell you, it's not about you. It's not your fault. It's just that you've been going about it the wrong way. So, Debbie, how do we go about it? Well, in this class, we are going to go through the process, like I said, of putting on the full armor. And the amazing thing is that the full armor of God It's very simple. Nothing that God does is complicated. Listen, religion is complicated. But if you think, or if you're thinking, oh, this is going to take forever and it's going to be complicated, no, there's nothing complicated about it. Everything God does is simple. Jesus even said, let the children come to me, and you have to be as a little child to get into the kingdom. This is the way God does things. Very simple. Now, that doesn't always mean easy, but I promise you it's doable. If I can do it, I know that you can do it. Jesus talked about the condition of our heart in the parable of the sower. Do you remember that? Matthew chapter 13, Jesus talked about a sower or a farmer that went out one day with his seed, and he began to throw it on the ground, and it fell on different parcels of ground. It fell on the good ground where it could grow, but it also fell on hard ground, and it fell on among thorns, and it fell on rocky ground. And really the only place it could take root and thrive was on the good ground. But I think that most of us that are dealing with issues from the past are like the hard path, where it's so tough and it's been beat down so many times and it's been hit with an impact so many times that our heart has been hardened and the word can't get in to bring forth root. Now, that does not mean that you don't love Jesus. By all means, you could be one of the best Christians ever. Maybe you go to church all the time and you pray every day and you read the word and you witness and you minister. You may even be in the ministry. It doesn't mean that we deliberately harden our hearts toward God. What it means is that we have a heart sometimes that has been toughened up by traditions and also by perceptions, especially about God, that we have received through the years. Because like it or not, we have to admit that sometimes we've allowed life to tell us who God is. You know, if this is this and this is that, then maybe God meant for that to happen. Maybe God did that to me. Maybe God was in on my pain. See, we actually judge the Lord by our own experiences, and we draw conclusions about Him out of our pain. It starts very early in childhood. Children see God through their parents. They're supposed to. That's the way the Lord designed it. But you have to remember that when God designed the family, He did that before sin came in and messed everything up. So a lot of times what we see in our parents is negative, and that negative image will be transferred onto our perception of God. We don't have to intend for it to happen, but it'll happen. If Dad abandoned you when you were growing up, you're going to have a hard time trusting God. It's just the way that we're made. If Mom was always critical, you may always think that God is looking at you with a frown on His face, like you can never be enough. Okay, so what do we do then? If we have a skewed image of God and we have a skewed image of ourselves, then what are we supposed to do about it? Well, this is the fun part. We're going to till the soil of our heart. Have you ever worked in a garden? My dad had a garden almost every year when I was growing up, and he would make me work in the garden with him, and I actually enjoyed it most of the time. But if you've ever seen a parcel of ground that has never been plowed, this is really interesting. When that plow hits the ground and it begins to turn up the rows, there are things under the surface that sometimes will appear that you didn't know were in there. You didn't know it was underground. You'll find things from way back years ago, maybe coins or some kind of sometimes pieces of metal or different things that just kind of got laid there and got covered up over the years. Those things will come to the surface. Now that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to till the soil of our heart. We're going to pull up the roots of deception. We're going to take the debris and the trash that turns up. Those are the lies and the half-truths that we believed through the years in order to survive basically. And we're going to remove the stones, the hard places, all those things that we have allowed to form because of our excuses and our false reasoning and our denial. We're going to get rid of all that, and we're going to till the soil of our heart and get it ready for good ground. This is God's way of doing things. I promise you, everything that God does is simple. And if I can do it, you can do it. There's nothing wrong with you at all. God is ready. He's willing and able. He just wants you to start doing things His way. I'm so excited to share with you the process of putting on the full armor of God, beginning with the belt of truth. And I'm going to go ahead and give you a little heads up on the belt of truth. And this is one thing that'll really rock your boat. The belt of truth is not about the Word of God. It's about you. It's about you. That's why so many people have missed it. They keep thinking all I have to do is learn enough word, get enough word in me. But there are multitudes of Christians everywhere that have a lot of word in them, and they're still broken, they're still messed up. It's because they haven't put on the belt of truth, which is basically getting real, and that's what we're going to do in this class. So I look forward to sharing this with you. I hope that you will sign up for the Freedom Class. It's totally free. The first thing you need to do is read Instead of Shamed. That's book 1 in the Armor series. So grab that. It has my story in it. It details emotional bondage in detail. I've had fantastic reviews. I think you'll enjoy reading it. It's about 168 pages. It's a fast read. Just get that. The link is on the website to Amazon. And join me in the Freedom Class. I promise you, you'll love it, you'll never regret it, and you'll always be glad you did. I hope to see you there.